We are all tired of waiting for the world to change. So many truthers have promised us a healthy and prosperous future, but the world seems to be getting worse. Presidential assassinations, transsexual agendas in our schools, and thousands constantly sick with long COVID syndrome. Donald J. Trump, a man who had never held elected office, became the 45th president of the United States. His every move scrutinized, his every word analyzed. But behind the scenes, Trump was creating a global alliance to take back control of our world from an elite cabal that has enslaved us for decades. In front of our eyes, the true intent of the alliance agenda was shrouded. Trump embarked on a series of international trips, each visit carefully orchestrated. I posted a video from a movie maker named Nick Alvear on our community board a while back. Nick did an amazing film called The Greatest Show on Earth on Rumble. This video will condense what has been deemed the capitulation tour. And when you hear and see what was done during this tour, I hope that you will have the clarity and peace of mind that I do, knowing that the alliance is real and so is a future of prosperity for Earth. I will link Nick's video in the description of this video, so please check it out because there's so much more and I hope will give you the strength to hang on just a little longer. When Trump took office, he began meeting with world leaders, some allies, others adversaries. These weren't just diplomatic visits. This was a tour with a purpose, a mission shrouded in secrecy. The media focused on optics, on every handshake and photo op. But a deeper game was afoot. This was the capitulation tour, and it is changing the world. Before we go on, I'd just like to ask you to share and like this video and subscribe to my channel so that I can continue to create content that will help people move through the shift with empowerment and anticipation. For years, whispers circulated of a hidden force, a cabal controlling world events. They operated in the shadows, pulling strings, manipulating economies, and orchestrating conflicts. Their influence, pervasive. Their power, absolute. But Donald Trump's arrival on the world stage signaled a change. He spoke of a deep state, of draining the swamp. He challenged the established order, threatened to upend the status quo, and in doing so, he declared war. Trump's capitulation tour was more than just a series of visits. It was a strategic campaign to expose and dismantle the cabal's influence. Each stop, meticulously planned. Each meeting, a calculated move in a high-stakes game of chess. Trump's message was clear. The old rules no longer applied. He had everything he needed to bury the cabal and expose their scheme. His goal? To break the cabal's hold on power, to give back government to the people, and to rid the world of the power structure that enslaves it. The world watched and waited, holding its breath, but nothing seemed to happen. The stakes had never been higher, but most people can't understand the magnitude of what must be done. The cabal, a word whispered in hushed tones, often dismissed as a conspiracy theory. But for those who have studied the flow of power, the subtle shifts in global dynamics, the cabal is no myth. Their roots reach deep into the heart of institutions, their influence a silent puppet master pulling the strings of nations. Their origins are unspoken, lost to time and shrouded in secrecy. Some whisper of ancient bloodlines, others of secret societies formed in the smoky backrooms of opulent estates. Regardless of their genesis, their goal remained consistent: the accumulation and consolidation of power. For centuries, they operated in the shadows, their influence a subtle pressure shaping world events. Wars were instigated, economies manipulated, and governments toppled, all to further their agenda. Their tools were diverse: control over central banks and global finance, manipulation of media narratives, and the strategic placement of key figures in positions of power, until now. Section 2. The Puppeteers. To understand the cabal, one must understand their methods. They were masters of deception, weaving intricate narratives that disguised their true intentions. They controlled the flow of information, dictating what the public saw and heard. Dissent was silenced, alternative viewpoints swiftly discredited. Through their control of media empires, they crafted a singular narrative, shaping public perception and steering the masses towards their desired outcomes. Politicians, often unknowingly, became their pawns, enacting policies that served the cabal's interests while believing they acted of their own volition. Their power seemed insurmountable, their web of influence inescapable. Section 3. The Awakening. For decades, the cabal operated with impunity, their existence unknown to the wider public. But the rise of the internet and the free flow of information began to chip away at their carefully constructed facade. People started connecting the dots, noticing the patterns of manipulation and control. Conspiracy theories flourished, some outlandish, others eerily close to the truth. The cabal, once a phantom menace, began to take shape in the public consciousness. Their methods, once shrouded in secrecy, were exposed to the light of day. This awakening, this growing awareness of the cabal's existence, posed a direct threat to their power. Section 1. The Saudi Salute, the Sword Dance with Desert Kings. Trump's first international trip as president was a carefully chosen statement. On May 20, 2017, he traveled to Riyadh, Saudi Arabia, the heart of the Arab world, a region long considered a strategic pawn in the cabal's global game. This visit was a power play with the rulers of the Middle East, the world's oil controllers. The Saudis, historically wary of American presidents, rolled out the red carpet for Trump. There were lavish ceremonies, opulent displays of wealth, and endless photo opportunities. The message was clear: submission. Trump had arrived, and the House of Saud was eager to please. But behind the smiles and handshakes, deals were being struck, alliances forged. Trump, it seemed, understood the language of power. He knew that to dismantle the cabal, he needed to play on their own terms. Trump sat down with evidence of numerous crimes against humanity and children, and gave the Saudis the opportunity to cooperate and bring down the New World Order together, or be exposed and destroyed. The Saudis agreed to unprecedented deals, pumping billions into the American economy and joining with the United States and others to unseat the monetary powers. The proof of their submission was the Saudi sword dance, or Arda, holds deep significance. Historically, it was performed by warriors before battle to demonstrate unity and strength. The rhythmic chanting and synchronized movements symbolize solidarity and preparedness for collective action, whether in war or in national unity. Saudi Arabia had decided to join the global alliance. Joe Biden got a purple carpet and much fewer officials attending. A couple of days later, on May 22, 2017, President Trump and the First Lady visited Israel. Trump met with the Israeli president at the time, Reuven Rivlin, who proclaimed that America was back again. Israel's public submission was the movement of our embassy to Jerusalem with our military protection. Then Trump became the first sitting president to visit the Western Wall. He wore a yarmulke out of respect, and the media machines got right on it, falsely proclaiming that Trump was a Jesuit. Yet another 2 days, and Donald Trump found himself in the Vatican City on May 24, 2017. Pope Francis wasn't happy after seeing concrete evidence of their involvement in human trafficking. Apparently, this was a tough negotiation, and the Pope capitulated and seemed none too happy about it. Word has it that it took 650 airplanes to remove all the ill-gotten gold and precious artifacts either surrendered or seized by the alliance. It's not clear if this was part of the agreement. Nick makes the point that Pope Francis was much happier when Obama paid him a visit. The next day, on May 25, 2017, President Trump flew to Brussels, Belgium to meet with NATO and the EU, European Union. Trump walked in late to the meeting, pushing aside world leaders and making his way to the position of command, and they treated him with great respect. As a result of this meeting, the European Union was ordered to stand down on Brexit, which was Great Britain's initiative to remove itself from the EU. It was not until January 31, 2020, that Britain officially left the EU. Now, Trump had achieved the submission of not only the Arab world, but of Europe as well. Section 2, The Rising Sun's Shadow, a Bow to Economic Power. It was on November 4, 2017, that Trump resumed the capitulation tour. He spent 13 days visiting 5 key countries in the Far East, beginning with the land of the rising sun. Japan, a nation with a complex history with the United States, was also a nation deeply embedded in the global economic system controlled by the cabal. This visit ultimately resulted in the removal of the Japanese emperor 1 month after. The cabinet decided that on April 30, 2019, Emperor Akihito would abdicate his throne because he failed the country. He was the first Japanese emperor to abdicate in over 2 centuries and a special law had to be enacted to allow his abdication. Prime Minister Abe showered Trump with praise and flattery, agreeing to concessions that would have been unthinkable under previous administrations. The message was clear. Japan would not stand in Trump's way, and another power structure had been removed. But there was a much bigger signal of capitulation. President Donald Trump became the first sitting U.S. president to present the President's Cup to the sumo champion on May 26, 2019. Trump and the alliance used extraordinary measures to attain the submission of North Korean leader Kim Jong-un. Trump made strong statements in 2017 about North Korea's nuclear ambitions. On August 8, 2017, he issued a warning that North Korea would face fire and fury like the world has never seen if it continued to threaten the U.S. or its allies with nuclear weapons. Approximately 2 weeks before Trump's November 7, 2017 visit, a nuclear research mountain in North Korea suspiciously collapsed, killing its nuclear scientists and taking numerous underground tunnels within the Punggye-ri nuclear test site. On November 8, Trump delivered a speech in South Korea that contained a warning to Kim Jong-un as follows: "Do not underestimate us and do not try us. The weapons you are acquiring are not making you safer. They are putting your regime in grave danger. Every step you take down this dark path increases the peril that you face." It took a while, but on June 30, 2019, Trump met with North Korean leader Kim Jong-un at the DMZ and was invited to become the first sitting U.S. president to cross the demarcation line to enter into North Korea. After South Korea, Trump continued and arrived in Beijing, China, from November 8 to the 10th, 2017. He had been invited to be the first foreign leader to ever be invited to dine in the Forbidden City, a historic palace complex located in the heart of Beijing. The name Forbidden City reflects the fact that access was strictly controlled, with only the emperor, his family, and select officials being allowed inside. China is the sleeping giant that the cabal had sought to control for decades. It was well known that China resisted control and wanted to destroy the deep state as well. Trump, a seasoned negotiator, wasn't afraid to play hardball to gain submission. Xi, a shrewd and calculating leader, understood the stakes. The two leaders had a common goal and made a public display of their friendship and solidarity to free the world. 2 days later, Donald Trump arrives in Vietnam to address human trafficking and get Southeast Asian leaders to submit. This included Singapore and the Philippines. More disinformation was disseminated regarding these visits, implying that Trump was supporting countries that violate human rights. Trump has thick skin and kept his eye on the goal, which is and has always been the elimination of human trafficking. Trump returned to D.C. and signed Executive Order 13818, declaring an emergency with respect to human rights abuse and corruption worldwide. On January 26, 2018, Trump resumed the capitulation tour when he flew to the World Economic Forum in Davos, Switzerland. The leaders of the world knew what Trump was doing when he arrived at the Lion's Den with all of the world's elite bankers and CEOs present, including George Soros. Their submission was apparent by their placement of President Trump in the central seat of honor. Remember the beginning of this tour and the young Saudi prince Mohammed bin Salman? Well, the Saudis owned much of Silicon Valley, which gives them a lot of power. So on March 20, 2018, Donald Trump sent his alliance partner bin Salman to California to meet with some of the world's most powerful digital leaders, including Twitter, Google, Facebook, Apple, and Microsoft. On April 25, 2018, Emmanuel Macron, president of France, visited the White House. Macron is deeply entrenched in the deep state, having worked for the Rothschilds. He met his wife Brigitte Macron in high school and wound up in a romantic affair with his drama teacher, who is 24 years older than him. Brigitte lived a life of privilege in a deep state family. The photos of his visit with Trump suggest submission. On July 14, 2018, President Trump and the First Lady arrived in London, England. During a review of her honor guard, Queen Elizabeth motioned for Trump to walk in front of her. In British royal protocol, it is considered a sign of disrespect to walk in front of the Queen of England, but Queen Elizabeth clearly motioned for Trump to walk first, which was a deliberate sign of submission. The Queen also placed President Trump in the center position for official photos and asked him to sit in Winston Churchill's chair. Britain was another difficult submission, but Trump was patient and resolute. Either the countries of the world took back control of their governments from the cabal, or Trump will spill all of the dirt on the deep state and their involvement. 'Their 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 in That same month, Trump traveled to Helsinki, Finland on July 25, 2018, to meet Vladimir Putin. This wasn't just a meeting of two world leaders, this was the welcoming of a new member to the global alliance. The mainstream media, fueled by the cabal's narrative, portrayed Putin as Trump's puppet master, a foreign adversary pulling the strings of the American presidency. We spent billions on the Russia collusion, but those who looked closer saw a different dynamic at play. This wasn't about collusion, this was about disruption. Trump, it seemed, understood that Russia, despite its flaws, was a necessary player in the fight against the cabal. He knew that Putin, a master strategist, had his own score to settle with the global elite. Their interests, for once, aligned. The meeting itself was shrouded in secrecy, and the details of their conversations unknown. But the outcome was clear. Putin famously threw a soccer ball to Trump, telling him, "The ball is in your court." It wasn't until January 20th, 2021, that Melania Trump would step off of Air Force One for the last time as First Lady in a Gucci dress, with unusual design eerily reminiscent of Putin's soccer ball. But Trump wasn't done creating the global alliance with Russia. Over the coming months, he would meet with leaders of various South American and South African leaders to offer them an opportunity to be destroyed or join the rest of the world in this massive undertaking. One last notable alliance was February 25, 2020, just after the outbreak of COVID. This important alliance was India. Upon arrival, Trump was greeted with a stadium of 100,000 Indians chanting Namaste Trump, led by the Prime Minister, Narendra Modi. The video to this amazing event is linked in the description, and I would urge you to watch it to understand the magnitude of Trump's presence on history and the world. Modi publicly showed his capitulation with multiple public displays of affection, and Trump was off to the White House to deal with the alleged pandemic. Cracks in the facade. The unraveling begins. Trump's capitulation tour exposed the fragility of the cabal's control. He had gained allegiance from all of the major pillars that supported their unspeakable crimes. Assets were seized, and a global alliance was formed, and if you look closely, you will see the cracks beginning to form in the matrix as a shift in global balance of power occurs. As the cabal's grip weakened, the Great Awakening began. Fueled by the internet, people saw through mainstream media's divisive narratives. Trump's presidency challenged the status quo, exposing political hypocrisy. His attacks on fake news resonated with millions. The internet became a platform for truth seekers. Independent journalists exposed hidden agendas. This decentralized movement threatened the cabal's power. The tide was turning and a new dawn is occurring. While the formation of the alliance was a significant victory in the fight against the cabal, it's not the end of the story. The forces of control, though weakened, were far from defeated. They would continue to scheme and plot, to sow discord and manipulate events in a desperate attempt to regain their lost power. The struggle for freedom, and for a world free from the cabal's influence, continues, but the seeds of awakening have been sown. The world has witnessed the cracks in the cabal's facade and has felt the winds of change blowing through the corridors of power. The Great Awakening, that burgeoning movement of truth seekers and freedom fighters, continues to grow, spreading its message of hope and empowerment to every corner of the globe. It would require vigilance, courage, and a willingness to stand up for truth and justice, even in the face of overwhelming opposition. But the seeds of change had been sown. The path ahead would be fraught with challenges, with setbacks and betrayals. The cabal, with centuries of experience in manipulation and deception, would not relinquish their power easily. But the spirit of resistance, once ignited, is difficult to extinguish. The world had changed, and there was no going back. The Unfinished Symphony, the Capitulation Tour, a symphony of power plays and strategic realignments. Trump's unconventional approach sent shockwaves through the corridors of power. He orchestrated a delicate dance of diplomacy and disruption. The outcome of this symphony remains unfinished. The cabal, though weakened, struggles for every breath now. The capitulation tour marked a turning point. It was the formation of the alliance that everyone speaks about. While we aren't quite there, we are very close. Executive Order 13848 expires on September 14, 2024. This order imposes sanctions for election interference, so I fully expect that issue to come up before September 14th. It has been reported that all nuclear weapons have been disabled, and that there may still be portable weapons as they are difficult to detect, but that we have the ability to deactivate them immediately upon launch, so don't worry. Everything you are seeing is the remnants of a dying monster, and in a very short time, our world is going to be much better.